Wonderful to be back here again with my friend and colleague, Harry Hollins. This Thursday, we're taking a bit of a pause on our normal Sum It Up conversations, but we want you to know we're going to be back next week because we got so many issues that we need to talk about with and alongside our community. But this week, Harry and I have decided to take a pause on Sum It Up because the Latino Leadership Organization this week did something pretty big and pretty important. And for the first time ever, we launched a crowdfunding campaign, a campaign to raise funds from our community for a community effort that we think is so critically important called Cumbre Connect. And Cumbre Connect is something that's been in the works for years. So we just wanted to take this time, pull back the curtain, and give you the honest story about what brought us here today. What brought us to a crowdfunding campaign? What brought us to even conceive of and begin to build something called Cumbre Connect? And there's no better storyteller about how we got here than our Chief Strategy Officer here at the LLI, Harry Hollins. And he wrote a post this week that, really got me thinking. And he said, this work is personal. The work of the LLI, the Latino Leadership Institute, for 11 years to advance Latinos through career advancement, business growth, to develop wealth, it's personal for him. So, Harry, that's where I'm going to start today. I'm going to ask you what you meant by this work is personal.
Ah, it's personal for what you opened up with when you said community, and I'll go back to when we had our very first episode, and I said that this is a community that built and shaped me, so you can never forget that. And so our work it goes right back to the same community that I have very deep personal connections with. That has been part of my personal development. And so I always look for any way to give back to the community that built me. And within that community, I have so many relationships and networks. And that's what we always talk about, just how rich and important those relationships and those networks are. And I can honestly say, for me, basically every opportunity I've had has come from a connection within the network. And sometimes it was a bridge from one network to the next network. But that bridge was all built around kind of the community and that connection. And that connection, I call it magic. And we always talk about it, and we can tell our person, and I think we have great personal stories, Joel, but our work is about connecting those in our community. And we have all this incredible and rich, talent. And we watch, when we make a simple connection, we get to just step back and watch the magic happen. And you've been doing this for a long, long time. We were just talking yesterday, and I think you said, I think my talent is I connect. And so I'm actually going to flip this back to you and say, talk about that. I was sitting there going, no, you do a lot. You lead the organization, you seal the organization. You're like, no, my talent is I connect. So put you back on the spot. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I called myself a relationship broker. And I think that title probably fits me better than CEO on any given day. But, I'm a relationship broker today because I am the product of relationships and connections. I am the LLI. I am the people that we work to serve and to elevate and to amplify. And I am the people that I hope we get to serve for a very long time to come. I am the first in my immediate family to go to college and trying to navigate what college and then, career choices look like. I'm a young Latina professional with big ambitions, being told to change my earrings, my hair, my look, my lipstick so that I could fit in and be taken seriously. I'm a mid-career Latina who needed some advice because I wanted to have a strong career, but I also wanted to raise a family. And then when I chose mid-career to take time off of my work so that I could be home with my twins, I needed to know how I could make money and continue to do the work. And as an executive, I am someone who didn't believe I had the capacity, ability, know-how, knowledge to lead. And I needed to be told that I am more than capable. I'm someone who sat in boardrooms with companies like Coca-Cola, believing that I was in no way nearly as qualified as the others in the room. And today I am an entrepreneur who is trying to build a tech company alongside and a tech platform alongside really talented people. When people look at me and they don't see me being, the typical tech leader, and that is something that I'm navigating. But along each one of those steps, I had friends, I had family members, I had mentors and sponsors who helped shape narratives and replace those toxic narratives with positive ones. I wrote yesterday a true and personal story that I would not be CEO of the Latino Leadership Institute today if my grandfather wouldn't have told me it was my turn to lead. And I would never have stepped into that Coca-Cola boardroom that day if I didn't have my friend and mentor, Catherine Archuleta, telling me to go in there and show them what I was capable of doing. And we would not have built the initial design work of Cumbre Connect if it weren't for our own community, the Latino Community Foundation of Colorado, and specifically LLI alumna Sonia, sitting across the table, listening to this big, bold vision and saying, I believe not only in the vision, but I believe in you. So I am the product of connections and relationships and people who will open doors, push me through them sometimes when I don't want to go through them, and then guide me as I'm there. I would not be where I am today if it weren't for the power of connections. So that is me paying it forward. That's why it's so personal. That's why I'm a people broker, power broker, opportunity broker, relationship broker, because I wouldn't be me if it weren't for others brokering on my behalf.
Yeah.
And that's the God's honest truth.
Yeah. And that leads us, right into what, term we talk about. I think we need to put even more definition about it. We talk about this social capital all the time, about, the power of the power of network, power relationship, power of connections. And I think maybe going deeper into that about kind of what this social capital is and why it's so important, because we talk about a lot of types of capital when we have discussions. We talk about technical capital, access to funds and money. We talk, financial capital, and then technical capital, tools and resource education. All of it critically important. You absolutely need it. And I'll even throw in a kind of a hidden capital around spiritual capital that we can come back and talk to. But at the center of it, that social capital is the glue, right? And it's the glue because it is your network of relationships, but it's deeper because it's about trust, reciprocity, shared norms and values. And from that, you get introduced to all these other opportunities, and it becomes that connection and that bridge. And we talk about how the most successful people, and I don't mean success in terms of finance or anything, that's one discussion, but just successful in terms of spiritual, emotional, physical, and it can include financial, has the horizontal network and the vertical networks, but they're the biggest networks across both horizontal and vertical. And I'd love to kind of hear your perspective on that, Joel, because we always talk about, and I almost feel at this point that we almost need to start breaking down the social capital. And I say in this respect because I don't see us, we talk about it, we assume it's going to happen, but I don't see us getting really intentional. And if without it, you're not going to unlock the power of it. I'd love to kind of get your kind of perspective on that, because it's a term and it's always bothered me. We throw it around, we talk about it a lot, and we think it's just going to happen, and it doesn't really work that way.
I love it. So on Tuesday, we launched, this crowdfunding campaign in Cumbre Connect, and I was busy. I was busy all day, couldn't even talk about it on social media, didn't send a single email out about it because I was living the realities of social capital and what it is and what the LLI has been building for 11 plus years now. And that was, I started my morning with friends that flew in from Miami and sat around a table of Latina entrepreneurs, part of our LEAP program. And in that conversation, we were not only talking business strategy, growth strategy, financial capital, but listen, we were unpacking the realities of today. Mom guilt about, driving a successful business when maybe not being as present as we'd like as a mother. We were talking about how businesses were navigating the moment. And, do you even keep women owned, minority owned still on your website? And you were able to have those conversations in an open and safe way with people who understood exactly what you were going through. And there were tears and there were hugs and there were all the things that not only help a business leader be wiser, smarter, more strategic, but feel recognized and accepted and a sense of belonging. And I know we need that now more than ever. But we went from that to a meeting with elected officials and economic development folks, with university systems. Throughout the day, we were meeting with folks. And my friends from Miami said, this is incredible. What the LLI has built is incredible. A business community, political leaders, education leaders, and in a single day, we can have conversations that connect the dots, that share information, that share wisdom, that share opportunities to grow and scale businesses, to lead in power. That is social capital. That type of relationship that crosses all sectors and industries, to your point, this vertical that we have to be in all those spaces and places to make big moves. And then, that or horizontal and then that deep vertical, that these people are from the community. They get it. They understand it. They're business owners themselves. That is my vision for Cumbre Connect, because see, that at scale changes lives. It changes lives. Putting that type of access and opportunity in the hands of our community, I believe, changes life. But you, my friend, are the real people broker on any given day. And I know you have some cool examples. That was just one day, by the way. It was a long day, but it was one spectacular day that really shows the power of connections and social capital that we can build. But I know you have examples as well. I mean, how do you see it? How do you, when you talk social capital, what are you talking about?
It is that, it is the relationship, and I go to that trust and reciprocity and the norms and the values, and how do you build that faster? Because that takes a while to build, and if you can build that faster, because you have someone who may look like you, may have walked in your shoes, understands your story, it's an easier one to tell. And you saying that, I had kind of two things. One, it's just this dream we talked about. I'm taking your story and imagining that at scale from coast to coast, because we know of the brilliance and the talent we have. The reality, we have to deal with those. We don't know each other. And so we got to build way more bridges. So this power of numbers we talk about, only start to feel the power of numbers when we actually start to build bridges with each other. And I think that's part of what we're trying to do here, is build a bunch of bridges and let people meet each other, because we know the magic that happens there. But on a prime example, and we've talked about this, and we have an incredible entrepreneur, Roberta Mesa of Emerald Gardens, and a multi-million-dollar business owner who built this business from scratch, sweat equity. You know the story, because no one would loan him any money. We don't have the kind of friends and family that can say, here is 50,000, here's 100,000.
No.
So he built it on his own, and we have a lot of stories like that. But he reached a point where he was so successful, he needed operational support to expand operations, to actually buy equipment. And he came through our LEAP program, and our relationships continued during program and after program. They're lifetime relationships we build at LLI. And he called me and asked, can you help me here? And the first thing I thought about was, what are your challenges? He said, I explained what I'm trying to do. I explained my business, and he has a big social impact piece to his business. And he said, not everyone understands. It doesn't resonate. And you want to talk about relationships and this cultural relevance we talk about. I said, you need to talk to Nicole Marquez, who is a vice president at Huntington Bank, Latina. Lo and behold, start putting this together, and guess where he gets his first loan? Guess where he gets his second loan? And now he's buying new equipment. The business didn't change. The business was overperforming, but he couldn't get anyone that would understand his story, what he was trying to do. And we have to be honest. This kind of, this cultural relevance plays out deeply. It does. And judgments and perceptions are there from you step in the room. And if you can start to remove those right away, you start to get to results like really, really quickly. And I just love, and that's one example I'd use is we actually had a business, the only funder was someone who could understand their story. And now not only did he get funding, there's a new relationship there that he has with a bank, and he's getting introduced both for his business, for personal banking, for the employees that he's bringing, which by the way is a pretty large Latino workforce, by the way. So this is what we're trying to do.
God. I know that story well, and my dream, my big dream, and people know that I like to think bigger and do more, is that at scale. Because there are these businesses out there that are hustling, product market fit, overperforming, and no one will lend to them. And no one will invest in them. And that's just not acceptable for me. I know it's not for you. And what we've been able to help nurture in a small way, but want to grow that, is those relationships matter. And we're not writing a new playbook. We're taking the playbook that's out there, that's built success, that's built power, that's built capital, and we're just giving that playbook to our community by building these bridges of opportunity and introducing people and connecting people. And that really heads us into the why Cumbre Connect and why now. And part of the story is a business story. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I'm going to ask you to really touch on more of these impact points, because as a CEO of the Latino Leadership Institute, alongside my team, we have grown an organization that was originally serving one single cohort of extraordinary Latinos every year to an organization that now has alumni in 36 states in 7 countries, running not just leadership programs, but entrepreneurship, growth-focused programs. And from a business standpoint, we needed the infrastructure to help us continue to grow our impact and reach at scale. We are human powered in a way you will never understand at LLI. Underfunded, but full of lots of heart and dedication has been our story. And to be able to connect people one-on-one, to be able to connect people one to many and many to many, was just us behind the scenes trying to make those connections. What you did for Roberto and Nicole was what we found ourselves now doing at scale. So there's a practical reason to build infrastructure and technology to make sure that our work continues to grow its reach and its impact, but also from a financial standpoint. And this was before the realities of the last 3 months came barreling down on us as an organization. But we've always been an organization that believed in diversified revenue streams. And part of the purpose around Cumbre Connect and building it under a 501c3 Latino Leadership Institute is because we want financial independence and sustainability to ensure that our work and our mission continue through any storm, but more importantly, has the ability to continue to thrive. And so Cumbre Connect is also a valid business reason to build our own AI technology and our own AI platform that is built on our culture, on our community. We didn't want to buy someone else's technology. We wanted to build it ourselves. And that is why. It is to drive impact, but it is also to ensure that we have the infrastructure to support the now thousands of Latino professionals and entrepreneurs and partners that we support, and that we are here for the long haul. So we had to change the business model. That's me as CEO thinking from the business mindset. But why Cumbre Connect for you from an impact standpoint, and why now? Why is it so important, Harry, from your perspective?
I think it kind of expand on what you said, Joelle, it's Cumbre is about amplifying and accelerating the building of the social capital. We've been talking here for why that social capital is so critically important, but it allows us to accelerate building of it faster and then the ability to leverage it. We've talked about these touch points of we see instances in our own backyard where we have incredible Latinos that don't know each other. So you think about that at scale and you say, we have a lot of talent from coast to coast that don't know each other. And if we could start to connect them, and there is no other way than to connect them than to use kind of technology. And the technology is about three things. How do we do this faster, broader, and deeper? And I think we have learned, and we wondered, when I go back to pre-COVID, right, we wondered, how is this going to work? We've done a lot of instructor-led and in-person. Can we actually build relationship virtually? I think 4 years later, we could say,
Yes.
No question about it. We've watched it. I remember a trip you took to New York, and you could talk a little bit about that. And you hadn't met Andres before. And then another incredible business owner, been on Telemundo, he's has a political background, does a lot of lobbying for companies. We met him virtually. He invites us to New York and fills a room with influential Latinos. So that anything question we had 5 years ago is gone. So we know those relationships can be built, and virtual leads to in person eventually, but we know we can do this. We know we need technology as a platform to be able to do it. We're too big, too vast. Numbers are growing too fast, but that's the beauty in it. That's where we can take the advantage of what we're doing with the demographic shifts and the numbers that we're growing, and then use this layer of technology to connect not only from New York to California, but to Omaha, Milwaukee, Miami. It doesn't matter. Denver, we are everywhere. We have talent everywhere, and we got to introduce each other. So I think it's, that's kind of, I know my voice inflection goes up because I get so excited about it.
Yeah, it makes me think. So we have a great community in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been out there multiple times, vibrant Latino community. And I remember, telling someone I'm headed to Indiana again to do another event in Indiana. And they're like, Latinos in Indiana, if only they knew. If only they knew this vibrant, beautiful Latino community doing awesome things in Indiana. And that was the light bulb, right? That's the aha moment that we have, is because we have the benefit, especially I do, because I travel most often to see these communities. And I can visualize what happens when we begin to connect the dots. When organizations that are just starting in Indiana can tap into organizations that have been around for generations in California and learn best practices. When foundations have an easier pathway to find those innovative Latino-led, Latino-serving nonprofits. When companies can no longer use the excuse that they like to use with me, that they would love to hire Latinos or promote Latinos, but they don't know where to find them, Cumbre Connect is there to help solve some of those problems, to erase some of those excuses, because we have seen what would happen if we could just build those bridges and make those connections. And I think back about what my journey would have been if I would have had even more support early on. What would have happened as I'm navigating even college or early career, and I could turn not just to one but many people, and what if I could have articles that told me what to think about, how to negotiate my first salary. Oh my gosh, how to negotiate my first salary. I would have loved an opportunity to be told how to negotiate my first salary way back then. I think about that so often, and I think about what my grandfather told me 11 years ago before starting the LLI. And that is, they did a lot to make sure that our journey was easier. And the thing that is keeping me up at night in this moment that we're living in, but also getting me going in the morning, is the knowledge that now we are the leaders.
Yes.
That our kids, and you and I talk about our kids a lot, our kids, like, we don't want them to have to go through what we did. We want it to be easier for them. But we recognize that the actions we take and the leadership we're willing to do right now is going to dictate what their journeys look like. And my grandfather told me that. He said it was our time to lead. And Cumbre Connect for me, it's not a job, it's not a career, it's a life calling, it's a mission, because I want people to have at their fingertips access to talent, to information, to people, to opportunities that we did not have. And I want that to be normal. I want that to be normalized for our community. I want that level of access for our community. And you and I both know delivering on Cumbre Connect just got a lot harder. Yes. We, for full transparency, because we believe in that at the LLI, we had a pathway to completing Cumbre Connect. We did. We had worked almost 2 years on a federal grant. All of these things were happening. And like so many of you listening and part of our community, you feel it too, right? There's real risk to the work that we're all doing, and funding has stalled or all but disappeared. And right when Cumbre Connect was ready to cross the finish line, poof, poof, funding gone. And so this week we did something pretty bold. And Harry, I'm gonna call you out because I think you pushed us to do it. But we launched a crowdfunding campaign to try to get us to the finish line. But tell us a little bit, Harry, from your perspective, because you had to push me. I am not good at asking for help. In fact, it's been a really hard week for me personally to ask people to help, to join. I'm used to feeling like I need to shoulder it all. It's part of that old imposter syndrome I'm still trying to undo. But tell me why. Why are we turning to the community right now to try to get us to try to bring this vision of social capital connections and Cumbre Connect to life?
You know, it's a couple things that you touched on, Joelle, and I think it's even taking a step back on the history of how we got here. When you and I sat down and the entire team sat down and we talked about Cumbre, we looked at both the structure of which we would launch Cumbre, and we looked at, do we do this under a nonprofit or a for-profit? And I think this discussion is really, really important because we decided to keep it under a nonprofit because we felt, and coming from VC private equity space background I strongly agree with what our belief was, that if we went down that road, perhaps we would have raised the money a little bit faster, but it would have come at a significant cost. And the cost would have been our mission and our vision and our dream to serve the Latino community in the way that we do and built the cultural relevance. And as you say, to be unapologetically who we are, we could not have been unapologetically who we are if we'd gone that route. And I think that's an important kind of context and perspective to keep in mind. And that's why we kept it under a nonprofit. And as you touched on, there's been a ton of headwinds from executive orders, DI pullback, corporate pullback that has cost us funding, significant, well over half of our funding. So we are asking the community, we are asking you to support us because we want to build this for you. This is, I always tell everyone, this isn't about profit and about money. And to this extent, we want to build this because of what we believe it could be, and it could actually transform, build careers and build businesses. It will also allow us to be more financially stable and more financially independent, but also, and I think we could share, Joelle, our dream is, if this is successful enough, we want to invest in other Latino organizations from coast to coast, because we know how hard it is in the nonprofit space. So we would love to be a general operating funding engine for other organizations. There's nothing competitive about this at all. It's and across the board. We want to support everyone because ultimately we want to be part of a Latino ecosystem that covers all 50 states. And that's where we're trying to go with that. And yes, so we do need help. And the last thing I'll say is our dream was, and I'll use a term that comes from, my private, corporate side, is we talked about a Latino cap table. And what I mean by that is we want the investors, not all, we want allies, we want everyone, but we want a significant number of our supporters and investors to be from our community, from the community we're building it for. There's something just beautiful about that. You don't see it a lot. And also will keep us honest and keep us and make sure we never leave our vision because we know who supported us. And that's how how I would love to, see kind of how you, kind of view that. You and we've been through this journey together and as a team, and we've looked at all kind of different structures and how do we do this? And how do how do you kind of describe how we ended up where we are?
I mean, it's both. It's both a response to our financial realities. I mean, we in 3 months have seen, significant amounts of revenue just vanish. I mean, as federal funding has stopped, and there's a pause on there, and companies are navigating DE&I, not to mention economic concerns, which are real, not only at the macro but at the micro level, and we feel that in our community. So we had to turn to our community. There was a necessity to really be responsive to it, but there was also this empowerment that came behind that. I mean, when we look forward 10 years from now, I know that the story that we're going to write about Cumbre Connect, that's going to be on CNBC one morning about how we did this, and we're going to get to say, and the first organization that gave us seed money was the Latino Community Foundation of Colorado. And in order to build and get it to the community, it required us going to the community to fuel it. And what keeps it going every day are the Latinos that are on the platform. And so what better story to tell than one that may have started out of necessity, but turned into opportunity, because we are building this because we believe in the power of Latinos, and because I know Latinos are powerful. And, we said it, we did the math. We have 57,000 Latino, professionals, entrepreneurs, partners, allies in our network today. And it's probably even bigger when you think about all those people and their networks when you do the math. If only 10% gave $25, we would have enough to get this thing over the finish line, to get Cumbre Connect over the finish line. Small dollars, when combined at scale, is economic power. It's economic freedom, something we talked about last week in last week's Sum It Up. So it's a case study. It's a story. It's a success story that I one day want to be able to tell. And so I hope that people will take this opportunity to go to our website, latinoslead.org, learn more about Cumbre Connect, our work, our mission, our why. If you're so compelled, help us by donating and making this a reality. Share this information, share what the work we're doing, share your own stories, share your own ideas about how connections and social capital have transformed your life and career. Be a part of this, because it's not a platform, it's a movement. It's an economic movement, it's a power movement, it's a community movement, but it's going to take all of us to bring that together. And so I look forward to telling that story, that success story. Right, Harry?
No, absolutely. And like you said, this is at the core of all this has always been trust. And so if there's questions, please reach out to me, reach out to Joelle, reach out to anyone on our team. If your organization wants to jump and learn more. And I say that because there's nothing, we're transparent on everything, what we're doing, what we're building, what we're going to do with, money that comes in when this is successful, who we're going to invest in. 100%. I can tell you it's all going back in the community. And we talk about circulating dollars to build wealth in our community. We live by that. And this is a way for us to reinvest back into our community. So, if there's any questions, any additional information, please reach out to us. Happy to talk one-on-one or talk to an entire organization.
So I'll end today with how we actually I used to end LLI graduation ceremonies for our fellowship program. Was we all have a choice. Are we going to do it one day, or is today going to be day one of writing and building that next chapter? And I hope all of you decide that today is day one in helping us get Cumbre Connect. Thank you all for your time. We look forward to responding, hearing from you, and we'll be back next week in a regular Sum It Up format because we have a lot to talk about.
Yes,
Thank
we do.
you all.
Take care.
Take care.